Are you tired of toxic assholes ruining your fantasy football experience? Consider joining us at the Worthless Fantasy Federation. We run multiple different kinds of leagues. We have a 32-team NFL simulation style fantasy league. That's what most of our content is based around. You know, you can see the podcast episodes on the channel here that directly correlate to that league, but we also have a salary cap league where we have custom rules designed around a salary cap simulation. We have a 16-team Dynasty Superflex league. We have multiple best ball leagues. Next year, we'll be introducing another 32-team NFL simulation style league, a 16-team Dynasty IDP league, and another salary cap simulation league using IDP, and much more to come in 2025 and beyond. I pride myself in, building this community free of toxicity and the stuff that normally comes along with a fantasy football, free leagues that you find on Reddit or wherever. No toxic assholes here. We're just a group of people trying to have fun. Everybody's welcome. I don't care what walk of life you're from. You're welcome here. And I will do my best to help you have fun in fantasy football again. We are very active. I'm always available to help. If you're new to fantasy football, I have no issue helping you learn and get better. We have free leagues, we have paid leagues, we're expanding all the time and starting new leagues every year. So if you're looking for something different in fantasy football, something less toxic, something a little more serious, or if you're just looking to learn and you want a place to feel accepted and to make friends, consider joining the Worthless Fantasy Federation. Link to our Discord is in the description. Or if you wanted to just reach out and ask some questions, you can, comment here on YouTube. I will answer. You can reach out on Discord. Just join up in the Discord and DM me. I am WorthlessWatkins. I really hope you give us a shot. Thanks. Welcome back, degenerates, to the next episode of the Madden 24 WFF Simulation League. Left off after week 3 with some just absurd differences between here and the Prime League. I cannot believe the Packers are 3-0. It's still bothering me. Stetson Bennett. I looked off camera, or off recording, but Stetson Bennett is having a monster season so far, and he's like a 62 overall quarterback. That's the reason the Packers are 3-0. It's Stetson Bennett and Kareem Hunt just rolling people. But we're hopping back in here, ready to simulate week 4. Watch me drop to 1-3, 1-3 against these Broncos. We'll go ahead and force advance this week and see what happens. Maybe the Packers will finally lose a game. Spoiler alert, I did. I lost to the Broncos, so I'm 1-3, and the Packers won again and are 4-0. Okay. Alright, let's do all our stuff here real quick. Alright, through week 4. Let's look at the standings. I did all of my shit I had to do. Undefeated teams still. Packers 4-0. Bills, 49ers, Seahawks, Bengals, Broncos, Chiefs. So only 7 undefeated teams remaining. Handful of 3-1s, handful of 2-2s, handful of 1-3s, and then our winless teams: Lions, Rams, Commanders still, Ravens, Saints, Chargers. Look at our top performers: Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson still leading the league in passing. They all have eclipsed 1,000 yards now through week 4. Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs on the ground. Devontae Adams jumps up to the #1 receiver, followed by Christian Kirk and Braxton Berrios. Cameron Hayward, Emmanuel Ogbah, and Sam Hubbard with 5 sacks. Sean Elliott, Kendall Fuller, and Ryan Neal with 3 interceptions. And then CJ Mosley, Pete Werner, and Kenneth Murray Jr. are your tackle leaders. Things are happening. We're going to go ahead and just kind of quickly go through a couple weeks, and then we'll look a little more in depth at teams. I am 1-4. I lost to the winless Commanders. Hey, it looks like the Packers finally lost, though. They dropped to 4-1. Alright, let's crisis in confidence. We were supposed to be a playoff team, and we are 1-4. All right, Packers are no longer an undefeated team. Let's see. Oh, there are only, what is that, 5 undefeated teams remaining. The 49ers, the Broncos, the Seahawks, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. Let's see how many winless teams there still are. The Rams, the Lions, the Saints, and the Chargers. So there's 4 on each side. Commanders finally won a game against me, which, you know, of course it was against me. Look at the leaders: Mahomes, Prescott, Wilson, still your passing leaders. Rushing leaders: Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, and Dameon Pierce peeking up into there. Receiving leaders: Devontae Adams, Tyler Boyd, and Curtis Samuel on the Green Bay Packers peeking up into there. Sack leaders are Cameron Hayward, Micah Parsons, and Sam Hubbard. Cameron Hayward, 7 sacks through 5 weeks. Interception leaders: Deshaun Elliott, Steven Nelson, and Kendall Fuller. Tackle leaders: CJ Mosley, Pete Werner, and Tremaine Edmonds, one of mine. But, you know, not winning me games. Alright, we're going to advance one more week here for this episode. And then we'll do a little bit more of a in-depth dive around the league and look at any transactions that might have happened. We'll look at rosters and look at like actual player stats instead of just the top 3 in each category, you know. Hey, I won a game. I'm 2-4. Oh, I saw 1 new injury. Oh god, who got injured? 1 new injury. Let's see. Who did I lose? Khalil Herbert, partially ACL tear. Oh, I lost one of my left guards and my left tackle for damn near the season. That's cool. I guess while we're here on the injury tab, let's just take a look around the league. Bengals lost Ryan Neal for 12 weeks to a compound foot fracture. No injuries on the Bills. Oh god, Broncos. DJ Chark out for 4 weeks. Chuck Clark had a complete ACL tear and is out for 35 weeks. Daniel Scott, people with fucking ACL tears, but nobody's super important. Demarion Overshown, complete ACL tear, out for 31 weeks. Browns, nobody's super important here. But Cardinals lost, yeah, well, Kyler Murray, we already know about the broken collarbone. Lost Byron Murphy Jr., 6 weeks. Chargers, Eno Benjamin for 39 weeks to an Achilles tear. Oh god, we know all about Achilles right now, don't we? Eagles lost, you know, their left guard for 15 weeks. Lost depth cornerback for 12 weeks. Patriots, Najee Harris dislocated his hip. Raiders lost Tyler Algier to a partial MCL tear for 5 weeks. And some depth guys for the season. Rams lost some depth guys for the season. Ravens lost Justice Hill to an Achilles tear, which is, you know, the Ravens and losing running backs to Achilles tears. And lost some depth guys to ACLs. Steelers lost Ramondre Stevenson to a torn pec. And James Conner to a quad. And, oh, Jesus, Nyheim Hines out for the season, tearing his ACL. Their running back core is just deleted. God, and they lost, well, Paris Campbell's only a week. Let's see, Deshaun Elliott's out for 2 weeks. He's an interception leader. That's going to suck. All right, Steelers getting decimated by injuries. Let's see, all right, week 4, Jordan Love and Hicks on the NFC. Russell Wilson and Josh Allen on the AFC. Week 5, Jordan Love again. Williams in the NFC, Lamar Jackson and J.C. Horn for the AFC. And week 6, Jordan Love is the NFC Offensive Player of the Week for 3 weeks straight for the Panthers. Holy shit. Leonard Floyd and then Lamar Jackson back-to-back weeks as the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. And Jermaine Johnson. Or that's Jalen Johnson, I think. Damn. Jordan Love. Having a good week 1 in real life and a 3-week span here in the Simulation League. Alright, let's look at some stats. I guess we'll start with my team. So far, what is it, through 7 weeks? No, 6 weeks. Through 6 weeks, Justin Fields is 82 for 137, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Oh, Tyson Bagent had himself a completion for a touchdown. 82 for 137 for only 932 yards. 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Rushing, David Montgomery, 93 runs for 381 yards and a touchdown. Justin Fields has run 80 times for 343 yards, 2 touchdowns. Khalil Herbert had a touchdown. Receiving, our top receiver is Amari Cooper. 16 receptions for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cole Kmet, a couple hundred yards and a touchdown. Michael Pittman, not doing much. Elijah Moore, not doing much. Christian Watson, not doing jack shit. And defense, tackle leader Tremaine Edmonds, Jair Alexander, Quay Walker. We've had 2.5 sacks for Ed Oliver, 2.5 for Derek Brown. Don Franklin and Willie Gay have had a sack. Interceptions, Tremaine Edmonds had 1, and Jeff Okuda had 1. Bears aren't doing so hot. Bengals, Joe Burrow having himself a career year right now, 120 for 169, 1,300 yards, and 16 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. James Cook has rushed 97 times for 287 yards and 5 touchdowns. Receiving, Zay Jones, Terrace Marshall Jr. has 5 touchdowns. Michael Mayer has 3 touchdowns. James Cook's, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. Their defense, tackle leader Akeem Davis-Gaither, Matt Milano, Kendall Fuller, AJ Terrell Jr. DJ Reader has 4 sacks. BJ Hill 3.5 sacks. Robert Quinn 2.5 sacks. 3 interceptions for each Kendall Fuller, AJ Terrell Jr., and Ryan Neal. Damn, Bengals defense keeping them in it. The Bills, Russell Wilson we know is having a crazy year. 136 for 174, almost 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. On the ground, Ezekiel Elliott, 279 yards, 8 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 238 yards and 2 touchdowns. Receiving, Justin Jefferson, 40 receptions, 440 yards, 3 touchdowns. Godwin has the same amount of yards on 6 less catches, 2 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson, 290 yards, 4 touchdowns. Kyle Pitts, 186 yards, 3 touchdowns. God damn. And McCaffrey's caught 6 passes for 87 yards and a touchdown. Damn, their receiving is crazy. But we knew that their defense was bad, so let's see what that actually looks like. I mean, Zaven Collins, 42 tackles, but then it drops off after that. Sacks, they've got Shaquille Leonard has 2.5, Zaven Collins has 1.5, Autry McKinley each have a sack. Interceptions, Peters has 2, Richie Grant, Devon Diablo, Turin Johnson, Travian Howard, Jamie Robinson, and Saron Neal all have 1. Nothing too crazy on the defense for the Bills. Broncos, Lamar Jackson has 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. Rushing, Bijan, 82 for 352 yards, 6 touchdowns. He does have a fumble. Alvin Kamara's got another 344 yards and 3 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson's ran 147 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Cam Akers has 85 yards, 3 touchdowns. Broncos are just running the ball down people's throats. Receiving, DJ Moore's got 408 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ayuk, 244, 2 touchdowns. Darren Waller, 228, 4 touchdowns. Michael Thomas, 178, 2 touchdowns. Not bad. And on defense, their tackle leader is Dre Greenlaw. Devin Lloyd, Tyrann Mathieu, Casey Hayward Jr. Sack-wise, Emmanuel Ogbah has 5 sacks. Chris Jones, 3.5. Jonathan Allen, 2.5. Jared Hughes, 2. Arden Key, 1. And then a couple players with half a sack. Interception, Dre Greenlaw. Damn, Dre Greenlaw having a year. 2 interceptions. Casey Hayward has 1. Mike Hughes has 1. Von Bell has 1. Browns, Deshaun Watson, 93 for 144, 984 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Not very good. Rushing, Nick Chubb's 375 yards, 3 touchdowns. Miles Sanders, 237 yards, 3 touchdowns. Receiving, Keenan Allen, 337 yards, 373 yards, for 1 touchdown. DeAndre Carter, Jarvis Landry, Harrison Bryant has 2 touchdowns. Nothing crazy there. On defense, they've got Devin White with 41 tackles, and then it kind of drops off. Sacks, Shaq Lawson, 4 sacks. Mario Edwards Jr., 1 sack, and then that's it. Interceptions, just 3 players with 1. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Denzel Ward, and Greg Newsome all have a sack. Buccaneers, Aaron Rodgers, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Rushing, Rachaad White, 300 yards and a touchdown. Michael Hasty, 3 touchdowns. Roshan Johnson, 2 touchdowns. Receiving, Scotty Miller, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. OBJ, 200 yards. Kate Otten has a touchdown. Defense, they got Levante David, Alexander Johnson, with 30 or more tackles. Sacks, 2.5 for Akeem Hicks, 1's for Joe Shoyan Shoinka, and 1 for Vita Vea, and then a handful with half a sack. Interception, Sean Murphy Bunting has 2, Levante David has 1, Jamel Dean has 1. Cardinals, Clayton Tune did some stuff in relief of Kyler Murray, but you know, Kyler Murray's back from injury now. Crazy, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Rushing, they got Jahmyr Gibbs, almost 300 yards, no touchdowns. About it. Receiving, Jordan Addison has 300 yards and a touchdown. Deontay Johnson. Rondell Moore has 2 touchdowns. Defense, Kaiser White has 40 tackles. Lucas Van Ness has 2 sacks. Zach Allen has a sack and a half. Neiman has a sack. Neiman has an interception. Jalen Thompson has an interception. Marco Wilson and Sidney Brown both have an interception. Chargers now. Justin Herbert has eclipsed 1,000 yards. 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Joshua Kelly, not great. Justin Herbert's run for 100 yards. No rushing game for the Chargers. Receiving, Justin Ross, 261, 2 touchdowns. John Metzi, 256 yards. Jameson Williams, 250 yards and a touchdown. Porta, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. On defense, Kenneth Murray is the only player close to 40 tackles. Drake Jackson has 3 sacks. Kenneth Murray has a sack. Kerry Hyder Jr. has a sack. And they do not have a single interception on the year. Alright, the Chiefs. Let's see what that looks like. Patrick Mahomes getting close to 2,000 yards. 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Goddamn. Rushing, Austin Eckler, 548 yards, 5 touchdowns. Mixon, only 38 yards, but 4 touchdowns. I bet he's getting goal line work. Checo has a touchdown. Receiving, Mark Andrews, 467 yards, 5 touchdowns. George Pickens, 385 yards, 5 touchdowns. Clorian's got 378. Waddle's got 301. Eckler's got 239 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Damn. And their defense, no 40 tackle players yet. Nick Bolton, Bobby Wagner, both with a little over 30. Sacks, Sam Hubbard off the left end, 6.5 sacks so far. Mike Parsons off the other edge, 6 sacks so far. So their ends have 12.5 sacks combined right now through week 6. That is absurd. Just those 2 players together are averaging 2 sacks a game. Plus Kenny Clark has 5.5 sacks, but then it just drops off. Interceptions, Bobby Wagner, Carl Joseph, Jimmy Ward all have 1. Let's look at the Colts. CJ Stroud has eclipsed 1,000 yards with 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Rushing, Jamal Williams, 409 yards, 5 touchdowns, pretty good. Receiving, Jamar Chase has 262 yards and a touchdown. Van Jefferson has 262 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mike Williams has a touchdown. Irv Smith has a touchdown. Defense, they've got Bobby Okereke with 43 tackles. Brandon Facey's son with 37. Jordan Poyer's got 36. Sacks, Grover Stewart has 3. DeForest Buckner has 2. Kwity Paye 1. Yannick has 1. Aleem McNeil has 1. Kenny Moore has 3 interceptions. Jordan Poyer has 2. Kevin Byard has 2. Okereke, Fancy Son, Julian Blackman all have 1. Not bad, not bad. Let's see the Commanders, because they were really struggling at the beginning of the season. Probably because of Jacoby Brissett, because Sam Howell's nothing in Madden right now. Jacoby Brissett, 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That's not good. Rushing, Javonte Williams, not bad, 340 yards, 5 touchdowns, but then nothing after that really. Receiving, Juju's got 364, 3 touchdowns. Bateman's got 295, 2 touchdowns. Kincaid has 239, 1 touchdown, and that's about it. Their defense is one of their strong suits, though. Let's see what that looks like. Patrick Queen, 47 tackles. Jamin Davis, 35. Cam McCurl, 32. Not bad. Sacks, not great. 2.5 for Chase Young, 1.5 for Justin Jones. A bunch of half sacks after that. Interceptions, only 1. Devon Holland. Yeah, Commanders not doing so hot. Cowboys, as we know, one of the better teams in the Prime League. Let's see. Jared Goff has 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's good. Tony Pollard having a season, 253, 4 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift has 189. Jared Goff has a touchdown. Receiving, Sun God, 414, 3 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, 346, 6 touchdowns. God damn. Schultz has a touchdown. Olave has a touchdown. Swift has a touchdown. On defense, not much to speak of for tackles. Van Der Esch has 33. They have DeMarcus Lawrence with 7 sacks. Maurice Hurst with 2. Shelby Harris, Dante Fowler Jr., James Houston all have 1. Interceptions, they have 1. Trayvon Diggs. Damn. Not much. Dolphins through 6 weeks. Tua, 813 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Damn, Skylar, Tua, that's right, Tua was hurt, so Skylar Thompson's played half the season. Not bad, though. 410 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Rushing, Raheem Mostert, 327 for 4 touchdowns. Jeff Wilson, 193 for 1 touchdown. Receiving, Devontae Smith, 391, 3 touchdowns. JSN, 324, 2 touchdowns. KJ Hamler, 258, 2 touchdowns. That's a solid receiving core. Defense, not much on the way of tackles. Calais Campbell has 4 sacks. Deron Payne has 3.5 sacks. Christian Wilkins, 2 sacks. Jerome Baker, 1.5. Then Bradley Chubb, Andrew Van Ginkel, and Jason Pierre-Paul have 1 sack. Marcus Williams with 2 interceptions. Jerome Baker, Nick Needham, and Derek Forrest all with 1. All right. To the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards, really. 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jalen Hurts having himself a year. Rushing, Kenneth Gainwell, 391 for 6 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 276 for 7 touchdowns. God damn. And Boston Scott has 3 touchdowns. Travis Homer has a touchdown. Good rushing team. Receiving, D-Hop, 320 for 2. Quez Watkins, 289 for 1. Tyreek Hill only has 270 yards and 1 touchdown. Not a great year. Dallas Goedert has 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. God damn. And Kenneth Gainwell's caught 168 yards. Not bad. Defense, Jermaine Pratt, 40 tackles. CJ Gardner-Johnson, 38. For sacks, they've got Brandon Graham with 5. Montez Sweat with 3. And Hassan Reddick with 1. Interceptions, Darius Slay with 2. Marcus Epps with 2. CJ Gardner-Johnson and TJ Edwards each with 1. Good year so far for the Eagles. We know the Falcons are doing well. Let's look. Josh Allen, 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Rushing, Cordero Patterson, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. A.J. Dillon, 261 yards and 6 touchdowns. Josh Allen has a rushing touchdown. Receiving, Deebo Samuel, 250 with 3 touchdowns. Gabe Davis, 218 with 2 touchdowns. Travis Kelce, 215 with 4 touchdowns. Donovan Peoples-Jones has 2 touchdowns. Defense, Logan Wilson, 37 tackles. Oh, not TFLs. Trey Hendrickson, 3 sacks. Grady Jarrett, 2 sacks. Anyamata Van Noy with 1. Rasul Douglas with 3 interceptions. Christian Benford with 2 interceptions. Kirksey and Evans with 1. 49ers, 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception for Brock Purdy. He's having a year. Damian Pierce, 547 for 7 touchdowns. Receiving, Devontae Adams, 593 with 9 touchdowns. God damn. Judy's got a touchdown. George Kittle have 2 touchdowns. Defense, Fred Warner, 51 tackles. Von Miller with 4 sacks. Nick Bosa, 3.5 sacks. Drew Tranquill, 3 sacks. Josh Sweat, 1.5. DJ Jones, 1.5. Derek Stingley has 2 interceptions. Jewel Warner, Sean Gibson Sr., and Samuel Womack all have 1. Giants, Daniel Jones, 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Rushing, Saquon, 355, 3 touchdowns. Breida, 137, 3 touchdowns. Receiving, Sterling Shepard Jr., 398 yards. Daniel Bellinger, 215 yards and 4 touchdowns. Isaiah Hodgins has 3 touchdowns. Slayton Barkley have 1. Defense, Landon Collin has 40 tackles. Kayvon Thibodeau has 4.5 sacks. Dexter Lawrence, 3.5. Ujulari, 2.5. Williams, 2. Landon Collins with 1. Damn, they have a lot of sacks. Mike Hilton, Julian Love, each with an interception. Alright, Jaguars. Defense, they've got Darius Williams with 40 tackles. Alex Singleton with almost 40. Dwayne Smoot, 2 sacks. Marquise Haynes Sr., sack and a half. Cameron Jordan, Batu Kasi each have a sack. Interceptions, Derwin James has 2. Darius Williams, Alex Singleton, Xavier Woods, Nick, don't ask me to pronounce that, and Rayshon Jenkins all have 1. Jets, Dak Prescott, 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. I told you he's good in simulation. Rushing, Breece Hall's 354 for 1. Dak Prescott's got 1. Michael Carter, 2 touchdowns. Receiving, Stephon Diggs, nearly 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. Braxton Berrios, nearly 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. And on defense, CJ Mosley has almost 50 tackles. Quinn Williams has 3 sacks. Carl Lawson and Travis Gibson each have 1. Quincy Williams and Duron Harmon each have an interception. All right, to the Lions, one of the worst teams. Ryan Tannehill, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Rushing, Leonard Fournette, 330 yards, and yeah, that's about it. Receiving, Khalif Raymond, he was doing really good at the start of the season. 332 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dwayne Eskridge, touchdown. Dawson Knox, and some other people have touchdowns. Defense, nobody really to speak of on the tackles list. Sacks, Arbonia Okunronkwo, 3 sacks. Osa's got 2. Gross Matos has 1. God, I can't pronounce any of these people's names. Interceptions, Stephon Gilmore and Kareem Jackson each have 1. Alright, to the Packers. One of the better teams in the league, somehow. Stetson Bennett, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Rushing, Kareem Hunt, almost at 366 with 5 touchdowns. Stetson Bennett has ran, got a touchdown. Myles Gaskin has 3 touchdowns. Receiving, Curtis Samuels, 425 for 2 touchdowns. Samori Toure, 310 for a touchdown. Mercedes Lewis has a touchdown. Darnell Washington has 2 touchdowns. Damn. Let's see what their defense is doing. Ernest Jones has 33 tackles. I mean, Greg Rousseau has 4 sacks. That's definitely helping. Nick Benito with 1. Patrick Jones with 1. Ernest Jones, Bobby McCain, Kwan Williams, Michael Walker, and CJ Henderson all have a sack. Packers are hanging in there and doing good. Alright, Panthers. We know Jordan Love has had a good string of weeks here. 875, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. They also had Carson Wentz with 437 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Brian Robinson Jr., 448, 3 touchdowns. Receiving, Hunter Renfrow, 341, 6 touchdowns. T. Higgins, 300 yards and a touchdown. Greg Dulcich, almost 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. And defense, we know they have a scary defense. Tackles, not much really to speak of. Olaquan's got 30. Sacks, though, Aiden Hutchinson with 4. Olaquan with 1.5. Crosby with 1.5. Brian Burns with 1. Wormley with 1. Luvu with 1. Olaquan also has 2 interceptions. DJ Turner has 2 interceptions, and Chad Muma has 1. Over to the Patriots, probably not much to see here. Tyrod Taylor, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Najee Harris, 351 yards, 5 touchdowns. Receiving, Jacoby Myers, 300 with a touchdown. Devontae Parker, almost 250 with 2 touchdowns. Defense, they got Juwan Bentley with almost 35 tackles. Matthew Judon and Dietrich Wise Jr. both have 4.5 sacks. Jalen Carter has 2 sacks. Juwan Bentley's got a sack. Barmore's got a sack. Interceptions, they just have 1 with Marshawn Lattimore. Raiders, Jimmy Garoppolo, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Tyler Allgeier's got 371 yards, 2 touchdowns. Garoppolo's ran for 137. Hollywood Brown, 429, 1 touchdown. Zay Flowers, 338, 2 touchdowns. Cortland Sutton, 230 and a touchdown. Hayden Hurst, 117 and 2 touchdowns. And Dobbins has 4 receiving touchdowns. On the defense, they've got Denzel Perryman with 37 tackles. Devondre Campbell with 34 sacks. Josh Allen has 5. Perryman, Buckham, and Will McDonald all have 2. Devondre Campbell and Rashawn Gary both have 1. J.C. Horn with 2 interceptions, and Camus Grugier-Hill with 1. Over to the Rams. Matthew Stafford, 1,400. 10 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Not good. Rushing, Tank Bigsby, Antonio Gibson, Matthew Stafford. Not much of a rushing game. Receiving, Christian Kirk. That's their whole offense. Is Christian Kirk, 570 yards and 8 touchdowns. Michael Wilson, and Ingram both have a touchdown and a couple hundred yards. On defense, they have Cole Holcomb with 41 tackles and Aaron Donald with 34 sacks. Aaron Donald with 6.5 sacks. Leonard Floyd with 4.5. Byron Young with 2.5. Alton Robinson and Zach Bowen with 1. Interception, Cole Holcomb has 2. He's having a good year. Ravens, Bryce Young has 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tyler Huntley, 456 yards, 4 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I wonder if Tyler Huntley was the starter and they benched him for Bryce Young. Interesting. Rushing, Gus Edwards, 380 for 4 touchdowns. Tyler Huntley's got a pair of rushing touchdowns. Receiving, Demarcus Robinson, 230 for 4 touchdowns. Devin DuVernay, 221 for 2 touchdowns. Mingo, 167 for a touchdown. That's cool. Defense, Roquan Smith, 38 tackles. Odafe Owe has a sack and a half. Bowser has a sack. Brandon Stevens, Kyle Hamilton, Logan Ryan all have an interception. Saints, one of the worst teams in the league and in this simulation. Derek Carr, 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Rushing, not much to speak of. Although Sean Tucker has 3 touchdowns. Receiving, Tyler Boyd, 486 for 2. Traquan Smith, 322 with 3 touchdowns. About it. Over on defense, they have Caden Ellis with 57 tackles and Pete Warner with 53. Pete Warner's having a good year too. Sack-wise, Malcolm Roach, Carl Granderson with a sack and a half and a sack. Interceptions, they've got Marcus May with 2, Caden Ellis, Damari Mathis, Eric Stokes, Randy Gregory, and Paulson Adebo, all with 1. Over to the Seahawks. Geno Smith not having a great year, 862 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Rushing, Aaron Jones, 247, 3 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, 225, 4 touchdowns. Receiving, DK Metcalf, 217 yards. Marquise Goodwin hasn't. AJ Brown only has 1 touchdown, 155 yards. Not great. Their defense, not great on the tackles. Sacks, they got Tier Tart with 2, Chandler Jones, Ashawn Robinson with 1.5, Bookie Bash with 1.5, Mario Davis with 1. Bree Ford has 2 interceptions, Jamal Adams and Tariq Woolen both have an interception. Over to the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Rushing, James Conner, 172, 3 touchdowns. Eric Gray, 134, 3 touchdowns. Receiving, Allen Robinson, 355, 1 touchdown. Tyler Lockett, 322, 3 touchdowns. And on defense, not much in this tackles department. Cameron Hayward, though, with 7 sacks. TJ Watt with 4.5. Ogunjobi, 2. Malik Reed, 2. DeMarvion Leal, 1. Steven Nelson and Deshaun Elliott both have 3 interceptions, and that's it. Texans, let's see how poorly they're doing. All right, Will Levis was their starting quarterback. 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions is not actually that bad. Rushing, whoever Saradoric Thompson Jr. is, he's got 235 yards and a touchdown. Hassan Haskins, 210 and a touchdown. Will Levis has run for 100 and a touchdown. James Robinson has a touchdown. Receiving, this is where Dante Pettis comes in with 433 yards and 5 touchdowns. Jimmy Graham has a touchdown. Corey Davis has a touchdown. David Sills, the 5th, has 2. On defense, they do have a good tackler in Anthony Barr. Sacks, John Johnson's got 1.5. Anthony Barr, Byron Young, Andre Carter, and Jack Gibbons all have 1. And John Johnson and Roger McCurry both have 2 interceptions, while J.C. Jackson has 1. 2 more teams to go. We got the Titans. Taylor Heineke's 1,100, almost 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, not bad. Rushing, Devin Singletary, 389 with 4 touchdowns. Kenyon Drake, 115 with 2. Receiving, Drake Lunyon, then 385, 5 touchdowns. Robert Woods has an even 300 yards. Traylon Burks, 226 with 1 touchdown. Austin Hooper, 173. On defense, David Long with 44 tackles. Jeffrey Simmons has 3 sacks. Khalil Mack has 2.5. Aziz Al-Shier has 1. Christian Fulton has 3 interceptions. David Long, Dante Jackson, Carlton Davis, and Caleb Farley all have 1. Last but not least, the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Rushing, Derrick Henry, 462 for 3 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook, 89 for 3 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor didn't do shit. He's got 1 attempt for 3 yards and a touchdown. Interesting. Receiving, KJ Osborne, 308 for 4 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp, 303 for 3 touchdowns. Adam Thielen, TJ Hockenson both have good yardage. Defense, Eric Kendricks with 54 tackles. Jordan Hicks with 41. Metellus with 39. Jordan Hicks, Danielle Hunter, and Zadarius Smith all with 3 sacks. Harrison Phillips with 1.5. Wanham with 1. And Jordan Hicks has an interception, and that is it. Pretty good. Not bad at all, honestly. That's probably... We'll probably only look at like every team like that again probably one more time towards the end of the season. Other than that, we'll probably just peruse like the top 10 at each position. We can check real quick to see if there's been any transactions. Any trades? Still no trades. Nobody's made any trades. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's been some signs. Oh, look at that. I signed a free agent right guard. Okay. Alright, well that's it for this episode, guys. Thanks for watching. Still a lot of crazy differences, I think, between this league and the Prime League, especially the Packers being 4-1, which I keep having to stare at since they're in my division. We looked at all of the teams' major player stats through 6 weeks. We probably will not look again until towards the end of the season, maybe like week 15 or 16, somewhere in there before the playoffs. Other than that, we'll just keep looking at maybe like the top, like maybe 10 players at each position every, 3 or 4 weeks. But thank you guys for watching, and until next time, Degenerates.